The 10th generation of Pokemon is officially on the way, with Pokemon Winds and Waves announced for 2027. The 3.5-minute trailer offers an extensive first look at this brand new region spanning multiple islands, and there's a lot we can learn from taking a closer look at some of the details. While there isn't much outright said, Game Freak is known to leave hints in its trailers. Early trailers for Scarlet and Violet, for example, teased the ability to ride Koraidon and Miraidon around the world as bikes. So what secrets are hiding this time around in the reveal trailer for Gen 10? Let's break it down to see what new details we can learn about Pokemon Winds and Waves. The trailer begins with a montage of artwork depicting the first 9 generations of Pokemon, each depicting Pikachu in an iconic location, as well as at least one other Pokemon from that region. Some even depict a mechanic from that region, such as the Pokeblocks from Hoenn, the Curry and Dynamaxing from Galar, etc. Then, the page flips to a depiction of this new region, with Gen 10. Pikachu sits at a table, looking out at the sea of what seems to be an ocean resort, which we learn to be exactly where this CG portion of the trailer takes place. Unlike the rest of the art, however, this one doesn't seem to hint at any mechanics, or any other Pokemon. But not long after, we get a look at 2 special Pikachu. According to the official website, these are Mr. Windy Chew and Miss Wavy Chew, representing the 2 different games, of course. But what sort of role will they play? There have been special Pikachu in the past, notably the cosplay Pikachu in Gen 6 and the Cat Pikachu in Gen 7. These 2 Pikachu in Winds and Waves are even more special though, as while it may not be immediately clear from the CG trailer, their official artwork depicts them as more orange than yellow, seemingly indicating these are shiny Pikachu. That, or they're tanned or sunburned from the tropical sun. The real question is if we as players will be able to obtain these Pikachu. Since they have specific names, it seems more likely that they're special NPCs to be found. This might be backed up by their outfits, which are vacation-styled, and have similar hats to the player character depending on the version. One of the main locations we've seen in this trailer is this large white tower, which is decorated with waterways, palm trees, small huts, umbrellas, and pool lounge chairs. This tower seems like some sort of special resort or vacation spot amongst the various islands. One of the larger pools on the building is also shaped like an eye, and following the water down from the pool, the 3 small waterways look like tentacles. In fact, the shape of all the waterways around the building have a sort of tentacle-like look to them, although they also look to represent wind, given the way they curl at the end. That would make this tower represent both wind and waves, so it's clearly important. But why is there a pool shaped like an eye? Water flowing down from it almost gives the impression of crying, with the surrounding furniture arranged in a way that almost look like eyelashes. Pokemon used to represent the psychic type with an eye, but that hasn't been done in a long time. The eye doesn't seem otherwise significant to the theme of winds or waves, so what significance could it have? There's also one particular shot of the player character that looks to be on one of these circular areas, as the floor patterns and pair of potted plants match up perfectly. That means we can use this shot to see that these are actually dedicated resort rooms. There's a large desk with a laptop, an ornate bed, and a doorway out of the room, likely leading into the main building. There's another shot of the player character in Winds, going off of the outfit, near an ornate sign, which is presumably for this tower resort. The logo is a mixture of a Pokeball and a wave of water, surrounded by 5 stars. We can see the exact same logo on some tapestry in a different shot focusing on Gekwa, which, judging by the nearby pool, furniture, and general architecture, looks to be within the same resort. So going off the logo, it seems to be some sort of 5-star resort. Since we have a couple of shots of the player in this area, they must be staying in this resort. Either it's like their home, making it where they begin their journey from as a whole, or it could be like the player's room at the Academy in Scarlet and Violet, making the resort more of a centralized location to keep returning to, where the player has their own room to rest in with PC access. Looking around the tower to the area at large, there's a main path that branches off into a few smaller ones. Left of the main path is a raised platform, though it doesn't look like it actually leads anywhere. Further up the path is a building with a big red Pokeball balloon, which I'll come back to. There are some more small buildings nearby, and a larger one up the path to the left. Near that building are 2 big fields, which from this distance look like they're used for Pokemon battles. This is purely speculation. But maybe this building up the path is the lab where the region's professor can be found. It would make sense for them to be close to the resort tower, if it indeed plays a central role. Moving on, let's talk about this region's Pokemon Centers. Like Scarlet and Violet, the Pokemon Center and Pokemart are combined into a single outdoor location, with different sections of the desk to interact with. Unlike those games, however, these stops look to only have 2 desks, so the TM machine is gone, or its functionality is now located elsewhere. There are kiosks on both sides of the desk, so like in Scarlet and Violet, the Pokemon Centers can be accessed from either side. Remember the big red Pokeball balloon mentioned earlier? Well, those are used to mark and identify the Pokemon Centers. In a different clip, we can see the lower end of the connection atop the center, and zooming in, we can make out the signs on the building, confirming it is a Pokemon Center. We can see these balloons a few times throughout the trailer, and now we know they likely each mark a different Pokemon Center to be found. Next to that first Pokemon Center we mentioned is a white rock, with what looks to be a small black spotlight in front to illuminate it. Maybe there's some sort of sign or engraving to be read. There were also advertisements around the area, including this one above the desk advertising some sort of drink. Speaking of advertisements, during this clip with the Duskulls at night, there's an ad on the building behind them depicting a Slowking. While we don't actively see any of the Slowpoke line here on these islands, given that one is on an advertisement, it seems like a safe assumption that we're likely to see Slowpoke, Slowbro, and Slowking show up here as well. Beyond the ad, this building is also clearly more decorated than many others we've seen thus far, including with Pokeball symbols along both sides of the door. So we've looked at a lot of the buildings around this region, but what is this region anyway? There are all sorts of islands to explore, seemingly spread out across a vast sea. As detailed in one of our earlier articles, this new region is definitely based on the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia, with clear inspiration from Southeast Asian countries. Fans from those countries were able to easily identify notable landmarks, including the floating bamboo houses on the water and the layered rice terraces that are known as the 8th wonder of the world. During this clip of the rice terraces, some small buildings can be seen nearby, but the biggest detail are these letters up on the cliff face. They're definitely the written language we've been seeing in the Switch era of Pokemon games. Next, I'd like to go into some details about the visuals of the game. First, we have this volcanic area filled with lava, which are where various fire-type Pokemon are found. As an interesting little detail, the fire of these Pokemon are actually emitting light. Plus, if we watch the player character closely, we can see they actually turn to look at the Pokemon as they get close to them. There's also this clip of the player running through the grass near a windmill, and we can see them shielding their eyes as they run. So the player animations might be a lot more unique this time around, beyond simply some variations to an idle animation. We might see movement animations change depending on the time of day and weather as well, maybe even based on what kind of Pokemon are nearby too. Near the end of the trailer, as the camera looks up at the vista, there's a strange cloud up in the sky. This one cloud looks particularly different from the others, looking more dark and static. It also has an oddly specific shape to it, with what looks like the end of a tail along the right. Could this be a tease of one of the new legendary Pokemon? It's unlikely that this is just a random cloud. Aside from the shaking of leaves and other foliage, clouds are a notable visual indicator for wind. Clouds could play an interesting role in winds and waves. Finally, let's get to some gameplay details. This might seem obvious, but seeing the player character run around and the Pokemon are out in the field around them, it's safe to say this open world adventure is likely to handle encounters similarly to Scarlet and Violet at the very least. Wild Pokemon are seen in the world, and you can directly interact with them to initiate battles. During the clip with Pikachu, we don't see the player's Pokemon out, but I don't think this is necessarily indicative of Legend-style gameplay, of catching Pokemon without battling. These clips seem to be using fixed camera angles for the start of an encounter, when a wild Pikachu appeared would show up, and then specifically when the player tries to catch the Pokemon. Basically, the exact times in a battle when the camera wouldn't show their current party Pokemon. Is the clip of meeting the starters really when one of them is obtained? There were no other characters around, and the particular island they're all on seems pretty empty. It's not like the scene from Scarlet and Violet, where even though we didn't see someone there, we could reasonably assume they were inside the nearby house or something. Where would someone be hiding on this island? Plus, the player already has the strange device on their back. This mysterious tech that the player has is clearly important. In winds, one portion of it is white, while in waves, that portion is blue, matching their outfits. There's a Pokeball shape on both ends, as well as on the front and back of these ends. The bottom end has a hinge connecting to the main centerpiece, as if the section can fold in or out. The top is different depending on the side you're looking at. The back has both the top and bottom looking identical, with the ball shape of the Pokeball looking like vents or fan blades. The front of this top looks different, however. The center of the Pokeball looks more like a button that can be pressed. The outer edge also has some sort of gray button, and yellow padding along the top and bottom edges. But the real question is, what is this device? I strongly suspect that whatever it is, it's tied to navigating through this vast region of islands. Somehow, something about this device will allow the player to traverse the water, potentially fly up in the sky, and more. That's my speculation, at least. Whatever it is, it's clearly important, as the ease of access is important to its design, since it's simply attached to the side of the bag. Official artwork even shows the player holding it. Regardless of how, we do know this world is traversable down to the smallest area. One small clip before the end of the trailer shows the player isolated on a small rock. They would never have been able to get here on their own in any other Pokemon game. Even in Scarlet and Violet, this might have been too small an area to get off a Koraidon or Miraidon. The camera panning up from this clip also gives a great idea of the scope of the sea though. Presumably, we'll be able to go explore everywhere we see. There's also definitely some form of underwater exploration as well. The final gameplay clip shows off an undersea location with a bunch of Pokemon, and the layout of the area definitely makes it look traversable. We're finally back to the dive mechanic of Gen 3, but now it's going to be way more interesting. Water Traversal is also backed up by the design of the player characters. It looks as if they're wearing a wetsuit under their outfit, with the sleeves, leggings, and neck all adorned with the same color stripe. We've been going on about the world exploration, but what about battle mechanics? Even though we don't really see any battle gameplay, we may have the smallest hint of a new battle mechanic. Looking at the logos for the game, there's a bright rainbow light between Pokemon and the game titles. In the Japanese logos, this light is instead overlaid over the Pocket Monster's katakana. In the corner of the first letter is this new symbol, also with this rainbow design. Now, normally, Japanese Pokemon logos have a symbol that ties into that game's mechanic as part of the logo. So, the only thing we can really learn from this is that this symbol, and probably the rainbow light as a whole, will very likely have some sort of connection to the new battle mechanic this game is going to introduce, much like Mega Evolutions, Terra, and more from previous games. There may not be too many details we can confidently glean from this reveal trailer, but with these games not launching until 2027, there will be plenty more time to learn even more about them in future trailers. Hopefully, it won't be too long before we get to see more. Be sure to let us know down below what you all think this mysterious device is going to be used for, and what starter you're leaning towards picking as well. For more confirmed information on Pokemon Winds and Waves, check out our article about the game's region, and every Pokemon confirmed for the game so far, right here on IGN.